OCLC, and I'm going to be co-presenting the OCLC update with Jay Holloway, Senior Product Manager for Delivery Services. I'll start off by talking a little bit about some of the updates and things that we've got coming and some of the things we're planning and thinking about for WMS, and then Jay can tackle resource sharing and discovery. I'll be watching. I see a lot of faces on video. The more the better. There'll be special recognition for the first person to have a cat or dog or both appear on their video feed. We know it's coming. I'm just curious how soon we're going to see the pets appear. And let me see if I can navigate here for it. Great. So my section of the presentation will talk for 15 or 20 minutes, and I'll be looking at 3 areas of focus where we're really trying to emphasize in our development plans for WMS. The first one, sort of the one that's really come up obviously in the past year, is around changing processes, things that we're trying to do to help libraries react to changes in the way that they deliver service or handle materials, primarily as a result of COVID. But we know that there will be after effects of COVID. There may be budgetary effects or permanent changes to things like collection development and provision of services. So we want to start thinking and talking about those as well. And hopefully that'll come out in the breakout sessions over the next couple of days. Then we'll take a look at some of the things that we're doing to support patron service. And finally, things in the area of resource management. So let's start with some of the features that we've got coming or already recently out there to help libraries adapt to this kind of changing and somewhat fluid situation. And the first one that I wanted to call out is that we've doubled down on our shelf-ready support. We already supported MARC shelf-ready. We've expanded that to support Edifact, which is used by some other libraries globally. We also have the ability to automate receiving of the physical items. We have some libraries who are actually receiving new materials using a book sorter, same book sorter that they would use for returned material. And we can actually have that book sorter communicate into WMS and create records for the physical items coming in. Some of you might be aware of the Realm project that OCLC has been working on, where we've really been studying COVID and the virus in terms of physical items. How long does the virus live on a book ultimately? Our findings are showing that it can survive for some time. We've got waves of data that we've been pulling out, but we know that ideally we're going to reduce the amount of materials handling if at all possible, and shelf ready is one way we do that, where there's fewer touches to the material if essentially the system can be updated automatically and then the incoming physical material just goes straight to the shelf. And that's something that has already been released. Also already out in the field is an enhancement to our Digby mobile app. We immediately started to get requests last summer to support staff being able to do basic circulation desk functions without sharing workstations because of the proximity and the possible disease vector that they would get from things like shared keyboards. So Digby became a natural candidate for us to introduce basic staff checkout functions, because Digby as a mobile app can be on an individual mobile device, whether it's a personal device or one provided by the institution, and you don't get into the sharing of those devices, or if you do, it's a smaller form factor to disinfect. So at the end of August, we rolled out the ability for Digby, along with many of its other functions, to be able to support a staff checkout function. We're also proud to announce that we now have available the ability for libraries to collect fines and fees online, have your patrons come in and pay fines and fees with a credit or a debit card. We've integrated with 2 payment processors in order to support this. One's called WPM, and they operate over in the United Kingdom. The other one is called PaySafe, and they operate here in North America. So if you're interested in enabling online payment, either because of COVID, because you want to minimize making students physically come into the library to pay off outstanding charges, or if you just think it's a nice convenience for them to be able to do that, contact OCLC. We have an activation fee. You do need to be working with PaySafe independently as your financial processor. OCLC is not a credit card processor, but if you do have an agreement with them, the software is ready to go. And finally, I wanted to mention our sandbox. In the last year or so, we rolled out the WMS sandbox, which is being used by some libraries to sort of test and train and model new possible workflows that they might be bringing in, circulation policies, materials handling workflows. Having a separate environment to test those things out and train on them is helping some folks as they're in this transitional period. A little more about the sandbox, since it is relatively new. It's essentially a complete copy of your system. So it's all of your configuration, it's all of your data, it's a complete footprint of your local data. It's the sandbox environment also includes its own WorldCat. And this is kind of huge for us at OCLC, is historically our testing and training environments have been plugged into the one and only WorldCat, the production WorldCat, which meant there were limitations on what you could do. You couldn't, for example, edit bibliographic records because you would be affecting the sort of the live environment. The WMS sandbox now has its own WorldCat, which means you can do testing and training on everything, including making changes to the knowledge base or WorldCat, and you can know that you are not affecting any live environment. The copy also includes a full set of APIs that you can test against, and it is refreshed with your data monthly. So it will stay roughly in sync with production on a monthly basis. So test sets and so on that you set up in your production environment will stream down to the sandbox and maintain themselves via that monthly refresh. The only data that we don't update in the sandbox is your user data. We don't copy patrons over, we don't copy staff logins over. You will create those in the sandbox and they are unique and specific to the sandbox. That gives you a little more freedom. We normally like to adhere to an individual user account in the production environment. In the sandbox, it's a little more loosey-goosey because it's not production. So if you want to create a circulation testing login and have that persist, or circulation training login, you are able to do that. Okay. Moving on to a little more detail about Digby. Now, when we last had one of these Kentucky user group meetings, I want to say it was 2 years ago, where we were in person down there. We had a very good conversation about Digby in one of the sessions. So I know a number of the libraries here have implemented and are using Digby, which is our mobile application designed for staff and student workers. Digby is not a patron-facing app. It's really designed for staff functions around materials handling. So it does, for example, paperless pull lists for holds. It does your soft check-in and your in-house use counts and reshelving. You can do searching and clearing of status. And then we have some very popular functions around inventory, which Digby really seems to speed up inventory processes, and the ability to do bulk updates to item locations. So if you are shifting a whole lot of your collection out to offsite storage or something like that, Digby's a great tool for the workers who are doing that to make those changes in the system. And as I mentioned earlier, we've recently introduced a staff checkout function to allow a mobile device to be used at the circulation desk. And Digby, for folks who may not have downloaded, it is just part of your circulation subscription. So you can go to the Apple or the Google Play app stores at any time and pull that down. And what's next for Digby? The last big function that we would like to knock out is a shelf reading function, giving a bit of more automation to those poor student workers. And I was one of them years and years ago who have to go through the stacks and shelf read and make sure everything's in order. So we've been working a lot on the user experience of how shelf reading will work. We're looking for that to hit the streets early in the new year. Now, some other needs that have come up that we haven't addressed within Digby or WMS so far. A lot of folks are interested in patron self-check on a mobile device. So kind of for the same rationale that they don't want staff sharing workstations, folks with self-check stations would prefer, you know, to find an alternative to students sharing that same station. So a mobile option is an obvious choice. And there's also libraries who are still supporting curbside service, where there's a little bit of a, hey, I'm here at the curb waiting for my hold, can you bring it out to me? Both of those functions are being addressed through our partnership, our acquisition of Capira, who develops mobile solutions for end users. So Capira is going to be complementing Digby in terms of our mobile strategy. Digby will continue to be the mobile app for staff-facing functions, and Capira will be our go-forward option for specialized mobile solutions for your students and end users. And Capira does have options that address both self-check and curbside service. So look for more updates on Capira's integration with WMS in the coming weeks. And there's another ask that's come up quite a lot in various contexts, which has gotten a little extra heat because of COVID, which is, can we ship holds by mail? Is there a way of doing mailing labels and sending holds to a mailing address like a patron's home or another pickup location, as opposed to having to fulfill holds by having patrons come in and get it off a hold shelf? So we've heard this asked in a number of different ways, and we're looking at adding that into our roadmap as well. No plans yet, and as I say, I'm hoping over the next couple of days we get a sense for how useful that would be for Kentucky WMS libraries. I'm also curious how many of you might still be doing curbside. A ton of interest hit in curbside in the summer, and a lot of libraries have walked that back and are kind of re-engaging with on-site service. So during the circulation breakouts, I'm interested to hear what's going on with curbside with you guys. Moving swiftly on to a little more about patron service. A lot of the driving force behind our circulation and our fulfillment enhancements have been around this concept of the collective collection. And Jay is going to talk a lot more about the patron experience of getting fulfillment from the collective collection and all these different channels. But we're trying to support that effort from the circulation side as much as possible. And we're basing this on a research project that Lorcan Dempsey and our research group did with and for the Big Ten. And it's really about the fact that the collection isn't just local anymore. And there's really shades of gray between your local collection, your group collection, and your resource sharing alternatives. A big part of that is not just giving access to that inventory, but having a single patron record at the center of it all. And for WMS libraries, we really want that to be the WMS patron record. We'd like a WMS patron to be able to go into their account and see their local holds, see their group holds, see all of their holds and transactions and checkouts from all of the resource sharing and consortial borrowing systems that they can plug into through their library, having that single experience. That's why over the past years, we've integrated WMS with Tapasa and D2D, and we've got plans to deepen our integration with all sorts of consortial borrowing and resource sharing systems. We're bringing in the NSIP lookup user, which is desired by folks like Autographics, like D2D, and Reshare. And essentially that'll allow those systems to look up a WMS record directly whereas right now they're having to kind of create their own shadow patron database. We also are going back to the future a little bit and implementing Z3950 support for item status lookup. A lot of the resource sharing and consortial borrowing systems are still looking to look up availability based on Z3950, folks like Iliad and Reshare. So we'll be rolling that out in the next year or so as well. And we are in active conversations with Innovative Interfaces. They have proprietary APIs for engaging with InReach, so we're a development partner for working against those as well. I mentioned earlier that available now, we have our online payment of fines and fees against PaySafe is now available. And we have a feature which supports holds at the edition level, which we implemented for bilingual libraries in Quebec, where they would have a French and an English record, and they pulled those together in a single cluster. So the system didn't want to prematurely pick the bibliographic record. The patron would express the need at the cluster level, and the system would figure out the right way to go. So that's been a tremendous lift. Jay, I don't know if you're talking about that at all in your section.
I can mention it.
Okay, great.
Sounds good.
If I leave you any time, I'm starting to worry I'm going long here, so I'm gonna hustle, folks. Another feature that just hit the streets last month was a huge overhaul of how we handle pickup locations for holds in WMS. This is probably the biggest transformation that we've done to circulation since WMS circulation was launched over a decade ago. You can now have multiple pickup locations for a branch instead of it being one-to-one. So you can have a branch location and then have pickup locations on each floor. You can support smart lockers or reading rooms or other delivery services. Tremendous amount of diversity there. It's also designed, and this is partially COVID influenced, to allow you to very quickly enable and disable these pickup locations. So if you have temporary locations coming up, or you have locations being temporarily closed, this is designed so it's not like a whole implementation process and then things are baked. You can flick switches as your service locations availability may change. You can also force a given pickup location to support only a subset of your collection or only a subset of your patrons, for example. So if you have a new pickup location that represents a delivery service, maybe that's only for faculty members. Maybe you have a reading room which only supports a special collection. This development allows for all of those controls. So we're very excited about it. You probably saw some of the communications last month around the impact on your policies there. We're building on that going forward to more fully realized support for reading rooms, at least those reading rooms which are being fulfilled through the WMS holds mechanism. We know a lot of reading rooms are mediated by staff and they take an email. This is less about that and more if you are using circulation to service those special collections and reading rooms. You can use that special pickup locations to force pickup just to the reading room if someone can't get the special location pulled out of there. And staff can also get a nice snapshot view of the outstanding holds and materials being consulted within the reading room. We are also still working towards a bursar interface, the ability if you have outstanding fines and fees for your patrons, you can ship that via FTP up to the bursar for them to resolve and send you the resolution signal back. Last topic is around resource management. We do have a bulk renewal feature coming to help you manage your subscriptions and other continuing resources. As you roll over fiscal years, we have a much easier batch renewal. It can go across vendors, which we're currently not able to do. You can pull together these lists using search queries, and you can apply a whole bunch of different standard bumps. You know, this year we assume these resources are going to go up by 5%. So that will apply to everything you do in the batch renewal. Hey, I'm pulling together a list of the Elsevier resources. They're going up by 7%. You can apply that as well. So trying to really streamline that rollover on fiscal years. We're also working on a staff audit trail. It's been long desired by the WMS community, where we're going to be logging actions performed by staff on physical items. You'll be able to see which staff member made the edit, what they did, and the timestamp on it. Things like edits to LHR, serials check-ins, those are all going to be logged. We aren't including circulation transactions since those are currently logged elsewhere and our focus is on print. But if you want to be able to track who made this change to the call number, it's not exactly our way of doing it. You now have an ability to backtrack those changes. And that's the kind of feature that the older ILS systems always had. We felt like it was time to introduce that. And finally, we've got private holdings coming along. Private holdings is a large initiative which is going to give you the sort of suppression of records features that the legacy ILS systems all had, where you can say, I have a system, I have a record in my system, it's on order, it has some other status, I want staff to be able to see it, I don't want the public to see it. So you can suppress things from public display. You can also make decisions about whether other libraries can see those holdings in your system. So if you have things that are sensitive or in process or in any other way you want to keep it local and confined to just your staff, we're introducing the ability for you to do that. And we're shooting for that to hit the streets about a year from now. Okay, I apologize for the sprint and I apologize to Jay for going just a little bit long. I'm going to hand over to him for the sharing, and then we'll hopefully have a couple of minutes for Q&A at the very end. So Jay, I'm going to stop sharing and you can take it away.
Sounds good. Thank you, John. And like John, there is just so much good stuff going on that it might feel like a bit of a sprint. Lucky for me, though, we do have the Discovery Product Insight session later this morning at noon. So if you're interested in a really big deep dive into big projects going on Discovery, that will be available then too. So I want to talk a little bit about the Library on Demand, which drives our platform evolution for WorldCat Discovery, WorldShare ILL, the products within our delivery services area. Mentioned some great stuff going on with the WorldShare ILL network to make it even more powerful and efficient. Provide a little bit of an update on the search evolution project to provide a new next-gen search platform for WorldCat Discovery. And then talk about our effort to modernize the WorldCat Discovery UI to provide a more accessible experience in a redesigned search and item details pages. And then finally, just plug a couple community events with so much going on. I think it's helpful to know some different anchors for when you can learn more about some of this work. So the Library on Demand is a concept, a vision, strategy, and a roadmap that comes from collaboration with our community, from OCLC research, the papers produced again from Lorcan and Lynn Conway's group, as well as user trends. So looking at the broader internet, what experiences do users have, and what trends are we seeing from industry analysts? For example, Mary Meeker speaks to on-demand services being on the rise significantly over the last several years. And that's something that we should watch for and incorporate into our experience. A key driver of on-demand experiences is understanding that user expectations are driven by experiences outside the library. So we know that users expect intuitive, convenient, and predictable experiences that are kind of fine-tuned to their task at hand or who they are. And they're looking to be able to get this experience, get anything that they're looking for anytime, anywhere. And I'm sure you're familiar with those expectations, getting to be on the front line with our end users. So that expectation is what drives our library on demand thinking, providing library services, providing anything to users anytime, anywhere they're at, where they're located. And that kind of distills down into 4 key pillars that we think about. So the first being intuitive discovery. So effortless access to resources wherever the user happens to be, in discovery, outside of discovery, driving and thinking about how we provide access to search through APIs and getting, wherever resources are needed, getting that to the user. The second is with smart fulfillment, so optimizing delivery to meet library and user preferences. So we know that users may have different needs for electronic or print based on their task at hand. So trying to provide options to meet those divergent needs. Personalized experiences to ensure that we take into account what type of research the user is doing, what sort of tasks are they trying to accomplish. Maybe they're an expert researcher and are really interested in robust views of search results, or maybe they're just getting started and too much information is really too much and it's overwhelming. And finally, a powerful network. So all of this is driven by our powerful network with unmatched potential to borrow, buy, and access resources. In that last piece, that powerful network is where I want to start, because I think that is something that we have at OCLC that is really distinguishes what we can offer from other resource sharing offerings. So we have a network of 10,000 and more ILL members that work together, cooperate to provide materials to your end users. Thinking about that network and where we can provide value to you and your collaboration, we know that improving turnaround time is a key area to optimize and make this network even more powerful. So reducing staff effort, so spending less time on requests with automation. And there's a lot there in Tapasa that I'm sure you're familiar with. Using real-time availability. So John mentioned that pesky Z3950 standard that seems to never have gone away because it's just so valuable. We're able to use it in so many applications. And I'll show another example of really cool stuff that we can do with that standard. Using turnaround time to inform lender strings. So smart lender strings that are informed by how quickly can you get the material from another library. That, of course, takes into account load balancing and how many requests you might be able to manage. And all of this through a seamless user experience. So all with an aim to provide a better, faster, more smooth experience for your users. And finally, integrating this into whatever services that we need. So we're looking at the ISO 18626 standard. We've started piloting and prototyping that standard between WorldShare ILL and Relay D2D as a starting point, and want to understand how can we effectively and with really high quality ensure that requests can get routed from different resource sharing networks. So real-time availability. So this is a really cool picture that the WorldShare ILL team has worked on. So we did a pilot with a few institutions over the last few months that wanted to answer the question, if we use real-time availability to automatically say no to requests if the item is unavailable locally and just go ahead and move it on to the next request, will that speed up our delivery time? And here we can see that we, in a matter of seconds, we checked 3 different systems. Even though we knew that the item was held at those institutions, we weren't sure if there was a copy actually available for use. So once we checked with real-time availability, if it was available, we found it wasn't in 2 of these cases and automatically deflected it to the next lender on the lender string. And finally to where it got supplied with a 4th lender. And all that happened within a few seconds, where on average it takes a couple of days for lenders to respond to WorldShare ILL requests manually, because you're manually going through the requests. It takes time to do that to check on the system status yourself. So really powerful optimization that will be coming to the entire WorldShare ILL network soon. In addition to that, rather than just going through the entire string and checking, we're also trying to optimize it ahead of time. So prioritizing lenders based on their turnaround time and prioritizing the fastest lenders to try to get you a lender string that is built with the most optimized set of lenders possible. And that was available for pilot earlier this year, and it will be available for all libraries soon as well. So I want to transition into WorldCat discovery. So having this powerful network at our hands, thinking about the cool things that we can do in the discovery experience. So I'll speak to the search evolution project as well as the discovery modernization, both of which collectively encompass the vast majority of this. The one thing I'll call out before we go on to that is that later this year, we're aiming to provide a new level of customization for features. So if you worked with our filters and you're able to like kind of move the filters up and down, relabel them, determine if they expand or collapse, all of those very robust configurations that just take a few toggles, you'll be able to do that with all of the item details metadata in coming months. So you can say which subject heading vocabularies you want to display by default, in which order they display, if they are expanded or hidden from view by default for users. So a really powerful way to customize the view of the metadata to meet your local collections. So search evolution. This project is replatforming our search engine with an aim to improve search relevance for users seeking known items or exploring topics. To do that, we're leveraging an open source Solr search engine, which means we're able to plug and play different solutions that users of Solr across the world are implementing and using in their search engines. So that enables faster development and more innovative experiences. This will provide a shared next-gen search platform for our OCLC products and services. So it's actually already being used today in a couple applications. The knowledge base is currently using it, and we're slowly ensuring that each product that rolls out is fit for purpose and has everything it needs to do well on Solr. So WorldCat Discovery is the next one in the queue, and this positions us to continue to evolve with the changing search landscape. So as search expectations change, we have a platform that is more plastic and able to evolve to meet those changing expectations. So a few key features coming with the Evolved Search platform, and I'll go into a lot more depth about kind of the nuts and bolts of the algorithms later this afternoon in the product insight session if you're interested in that detail. But I just wanted to give a high level view here. So the first is a new default article selection, which will aim to ensure the user sees the article in the article cluster that has the most metadata. So if it's locally held, if it has subject headings and an abstract, and it's not from a database that just has like identifiers like Crossref or unpaywall, we'll aim to promote that as the first record. So of course, Crossref and unpaywall are invaluable databases, but we want to use those databases to inform the other records, to show the DOI, to show the best link from an unpaywall, for example, rather than to use their kind of thin records to display for discovery in the end user experience. And the second is all new relevance algorithms. So the best match algorithm, the biggest difference there is that it will now be informed by local and group holdings. So local items are more likely to surface above items that are held by libraries worldwide. But if a user searches for a known item that isn't locally held, that will also get a really good fighting chance of surfacing first. And then the recency and library algorithms that you're familiar with today will all be based on this best match algorithm, but optimized to meet those different use cases. So recency being for that STEM research where you expect every result to be very current, and library for institutions that want to offer a worldwide search, but really can't support a large volume of ILL requests and want to be sure that local collections, if there's anything relevant at all, are surfacing first. So as we've gotten into this process, our methodology is to, as we go live with this, of course, we want relevance to be even better than it is today. So we're representing real usage, we're ensuring ranking. The biggest difference here is that we're optimizing the boost values with machine learning. And I have a fun example, again, in the insights later today, if you're interested in that, and testing users' perception. And that's led to some really key differences in the modernization design that I'll speak to in just a moment. So in discussions with libraries, frequently hear different use cases and curiosity about which algorithm best meets your need. So with the assumption that you're searching over libraries worldwide, the best match algorithm is intended to meet a diverse set of needs and to promote your collection. And that second piece wasn't present in the previous best match algorithms. So that's all new and is something to consider, because that will meet more use cases than it was able to before. The library algorithm I mentioned is really promoting your local collection at all costs over libraries worldwide. So even if a user tries to find a known item, they may not find it if it's not locally held or available from the group. And the last is that recency algorithm to support STEM research where older material is always irrelevant, which is an assumption that we can make for all use cases, but is fine-tuned for that one. So thinking about the modernization, our scope of that project is the search results, item details, and landing pages. And our aim with this work is to ensure that we can maintain the latest accessibility standards. So this will be WCAG 2.1 compliant, and it's sitting on new frameworks that, again, are enabling us to make faster, more innovative experiences, because we're reusing work that's used all across the web. So React and Redux are front-end frameworks, along with material design, that are used by massive products that have really put it through its paces. So React Redux is used by Facebook, material design is used by Google. They're really tried and true sources of front-end development. So I want to give a quick view of what the modernization looks like. So this is a search result where I've searched for introduction to algorithms. And I want to highlight one kind of key feature that I hear quite a bit when just talking about the search results with libraries. And that's related to our edition clustering and how we help the user discover related local editions. So I scrolled down a little bit, and on this search result, I can see that this print book's available locally. We have a new availability summary that says there's 4 copies available at 3 locations. So if you have large collections with multiple branches, this should help the user see that there's different options, not just the one option that we chose to promote to the search result. And that there's other format types. So any other format type that's part of the work will display here. So in this example, we have another ebook edition that happens to be an older first edition 28 ebook that's also available. But let's imagine that edition, the most recent edition, isn't available. And in that case, that's where in the current state, things start to get a little bit complex and harder to discover, where this experience aims to really promote that content. So the 2020 edition is not available, but this library has an older 2018 print edition that is available. So in that case, we're going to promote the availability for that older edition, show where you can get it, and move on. Or you can click into the details to see all information there. And because there's another format, we'll still promote the other format. So we're always promoting all formats that you have available and only promoting the same edition of the same format when it's unavailable from the default record. So I'll click into the item details for this item just to showcase a few big differences. So on the left-hand side, you'll see that we're promoting all of the item metadata by default, which in our current state was very difficult to do because as soon as we showed all the metadata, all of our fulfillment options got pushed below the fold. And it's really important, of course, that users can see item availability, e-links, and fulfillment as soon as they get on the item details page. So we have all that information there. And then on the right-hand side, we have a access options panel that aims to promote 2 fulfillment options. So one is the electronic option. So in this case, view ebook. And the second is the item availability with the local placehold. If you're part of a group or ILL and it's not available locally, we'll promote the group or ILL action whenever the user can't get it locally. So our aim is to promote the best option here that is available. It's based on availability and meets your library's definition of what options are allowed. So we use your bucket of options to determine what can even display here, of course. So if you're interested and want to dig deeper into these, we have quite a few events coming up. So the insights later today, we have a webinar coming on January 13th to dig into what those best access options mean. How do we choose them? What does that actually mean for your library? And then a few resources on the community center to see more about the modernization. So that, hopefully we have a few seconds for a few questions. I realized I was not watching the chat, so I'll look at that too.
I think we're up to date on the chat, Jay.
Great, cool.
You can throw it open. Any questions for me or Jay on that that sprint through what's coming?
You mentioned several things that are coming up, and you mentioned some planned dates for some of them. Is there a list somewhere of like the roadmap with planned releases or?
So in terms of roadmaps, our normal roadmap only goes about 3 quarters out. So we're, you guys may be looking at that one. If you're interested in a farther out roadmap because some of these things are probably coming outside of that window, we do have a document that we could pull together and follow up with this group. Is there a way to distribute to this?
Brandy can send it out to everybody.
Fantastic. Well, we'll make that a follow-up item.
Thanks. That'd be great.
All right. Well, I don't think there's any other questions, and it looks like we're a little past time. So thanks for your attention, everybody. We're looking forward to the conversation. Brandy, I'll give it back to you.